Yo, what's going on, everyone? I'm Chuckie Online. Welcome to JD Upfront. I've got two special people with me right here now. I've got Tolly with me, Audrey with me, and there's some things to discuss. It's a bit of a weird time right now. Do you know what I mean? There's as I said, there's a lot of conversations being had right now, and there's a lot of uncomfortable things being said and stuff. Yeah. And I know, especially as women, some of it must be sometimes triggering or might make you feel some type of way. So I actually genuinely want to ask you, in this time right now, how do you feel? How are you?
You have to get on with it. Do you know what? I switch between rage, numbness and sadness. And those are kind of been the reoccurring themes. It's been a weird time.
Yeah?
Yeah, same. I agree. I think the whole year's been really weird, but more lately, obviously, it's just been just really intense. I'm the same. I'm quite good at compartmentalizing.
Yeah.
So if I want to not think about things, I will just not think about it.
Yeah.
But then obviously when you go on social media, and especially because I use it so much, especially Twitter and stuff like that, it's just constant. Do you know what I mean? So it's just been like a constant wave of negativity, and I just think you just have to find a way to hone it in, otherwise you drive yourself crazy.
Definitely. It's about balance and that as well. See, for me, enough times I'm logging out of that. Yeah. I go in and I'll say some stuff or whatever, and then there's a couple of days where I might just be okay, let me just come out of this for a minute, because naturally I might go into it and I might be feeling super haps, and then I'm seeing all kinds of stuff that is
stuff,
but the things that I'm seeing and stuff now are stuff that actually really needs to be talked about as well. There's things that really need to be talked about. So it's on one part I'm this is good. Do you know what I mean? Then on the other part I'm yo, I feel heavy.
It's heavy.
It is heavy.
It's really, really heavy.
Agreed.
Tough times seem to be lasting, because apparently they don't, but they really seem to be lasting.
I'm telling you,
ongoing.
They seem to be going on.
It's so funny, how obviously for all of us, or a lot of us, went into 2020 thinking, this is gonna be
what?
This was the year,
it's my year, fam.
This was supposed to be the year of all years.
Of the name of it was going to be amazing.
It's supposed to be lit.
I had plans.
Plans.
Do you know what though? Maybe though, you see, in years to come, we might look back at 2020 and think actually it was sick, because of all of these things that are happening actually needed to happen.
Yeah. I don't
obviously,
think we'll say it was sick, but I think it was necessary.
Necessary, okay.
I think we'll say it was necessary, because I think it's definitely made us realise that what normal wasn't right.
Yeah.
Yeah. This ain't no way to live. What we were doing before wasn't right. And it's kind of taking the time out to clock it hey, something's got to give here.
Yeah. And I think we've just been forced to, because we've been in our houses. So we've been forced to just think, and I think when people think, they say more and they kind of do more, especially on social media, because we haven't been able to go anywhere. So I think that people have used social media so much more, and it sparks these conversations, but they're triggering and they're scary, but they are necessary, and it is long overdue, I think.
And definitely I think so, some of them are really good for the super young generation that are growing into their late teens and stuff like that. The reason why I say that is because I feel there's a lot of things that we have seen as normal, super normal and that. And those things start from when we're young, innit?
Yeah.
So if super young people are looking at some of these conversations and seeing certain things that are happening, I think that for them, it could be a thing of, you know what, actually, this actually isn't normal, or this isn't cool, or do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I want to go back a little bit with both of you, As you was growing up, this is before school days and stuff, did you ever have conversations, or did your parents ever have conversations with you about just life and race and essentially being a young black girl?
See, it's different for me, because I was born here and taken to Nigeria. So I lived in Nigeria for my formative years. I lived there up until I was 7, from when I was 1 till 7. In Nigeria, I was very unaware that I was black. I was Nigerian and I was Yoruba, because I wasn't othered, so I didn't have to figure out that I was black. We were all black. So it wasn't I was never othered until I came to England, and then it was just whoa, what is this? And the conversations weren't it was kind of this is not your country, be grateful, you have to work harder, they're out to get you, so therefore don't do anything for them to get you. Those were the conversations my mum had with me. And it was kind of like getting used to what England was. For example, like something as little as my mum's always taught us, if you get hit, you hit back. And I remember in school, I got hit and I hit back. And then my mum got called. And then I was like, well, you told me.
I was just doing what you said.
I was like, you told me if they hit me, I should hit them back. Yeah. So it was that. And then it was very early on, you start kind of hearing the like being insulted, but with blackness, like they add blackness to call you something like, oh, you black this or you black that sort of thing. So I was like, wait, why is blackness an insult? So it wasn't until I came to England that I realised I was black. Because sometimes people talk about things and I was like, bro, I wasn't in the country. Like you can't tell me about that show. I got here in 97. I don't know about that show sort of thing. So I didn't realise my blackness until I came to England, for sure.
That's interesting as well, yeah, purely because obviously I grew up here, yeah, but then I remember going to like Jamaica for the first time and then seeing everyone look like me. Like it was the strangest thing. Do you get what I'm saying? But you like elaborate on that a little bit. How was it for you when you was
my experience was, I mean, I grew up in Essex, so I was always a sore thumb. Like I always stood out like a sore thumb because I went to a predominantly white school. There was literally maybe in my primary school and secondary school maybe 4 or 5 black people in the whole year. Like it was predominantly white. But I remember growing up and race wasn't a thing. I feel like my parents didn't really teach me about being black until I brought it to them. So I just remember like one of the earliest experiences I had was literally being in primary school. And it's so mad how you're just living. As a kid, you're just living until someone points out that you're different. So I was minding my business, doing whatever I was doing, playing hopscotch. And then some boy just randomly came up to me and he was like, you're poo because you're brown. And I didn't think of it as like a racist comment. And even now I look back and I think, is it a racist comment? Because he was a young boy and he was literally just saying what he saw. But then I know it didn't sit well with me, but then it took someone else and we were probably about, maybe 7 or 8. And then this little Irish girl came up to me and she was like, Audrey, you know what he said wasn't right. You must go and tell the teacher. And I was like, huh? And she was like, Audrey, that wasn't right what he said. You must go and tell the teacher. And I was like, oh, yeah, no, that isn't right. And I went and told the teacher and the school handled it so well. Like it was amazing how they handled, like looking back. But my parents never had conversations with me about blackness or anything. Were you ever told
to like work harder?
Absolutely. Yeah. I was always told those things like, oh, you have to work 10 times harder because you're black and blah, blah, blah. But I didn't have those conversations till I was a bit older. But yeah, race and stuff wasn't really discussed in my house. But I think that because both my parents suffered massively from imposter syndrome, probably my mum more than my dad. Like my dad is a bit more radical, like a little bit more radical. My mum, like massively, like, no, you have to fit in, like you don't go and cause trouble, don't be too loud, just kind of just that. It was more of that kind of angle.
And maybe do you feel like she was doing that to protect you?
Yeah, definitely. When I look back, I think it was protection. Like obviously we're born here or lived here for, grew up here, so we're just more socially aware. Whereas when my mum came here, it was just like she came here to work and she experienced so many horrible things that it's only recently she's told me about. And for her, it was just like protection mode. Like, I don't want you to go through what I experienced. So you will speak well. You will, you will be smart. You will go like do well in school. You will keep your head down. So it was more that angle for me. Yeah.
Do you know what? I proper advise this, by the way, to anyone, that like, see with your parents or your grandparents or whatever, chat to them. And ask them bare questions because they'll have some hella interesting stories, perspectives, and like their journey and just the way that certain things were at a certain time is very interesting. And no one's around forever. Do you get what I'm saying? And like one time, funny enough, I've never had a bad relationship with my granddad. But my granddad's just a quiet man. He's just a man who never says nothing. He just came into when I was young, he just came into the yard and we knew we had to surrender the TV.
Just know.
It was that. But it wasn't even because he would shout at man or anything like that. All I knew is we surrendered the TV and that he was good at the times table. So like sometimes we'd be like, Granddad, what is 68 times 40? And he would just tell you it quickly. But other than that, I never spoke to him, innit? But now, at the age that he's at now, like we're looking after him and stuff like that. And like one day I went there and I started asking him, some questions about his life, innit? And some of the stories that he told me, like even the first question I asked him was, how did you get here? Because I don't know that, And then so that went into a story about a boat, like going to New York or London or whatever, and do you understand what I'm saying? So, but I always advise, talk to your your grandparents or your parents about that, because there's so much interesting stories from them. But going back to school though, like what was it like in school?
So when I got back here in '97, and then we lived in Forest Gate for a little while. But it's fine.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I was born in Newham General Hospital, always Newham General. So school was fine. Like, school in Forest Gate was fine. It was really mixed. And then we moved because my mum was like, better life, like bigger home, blah, blah, blah. And then we moved to Essex and Dagenham. And that's when I really realised that I was black, like in terms of like the racism we face. And it's really weird because people always say, racism in England is not overt. Oh, it's not. It was so overt. We had eggs thrown at us walking home from school.
Mad.
We had one day someone came in and wrote the N-word on our front door. Someone slashed someone's 4 tires.
Mad.
Like, it was, even if we were outside playing with the kids, you would hear the mum be like, get in. Like, as soon as like we were near the kids, you know, them was like, get in. And yes, and like neighbours would try it with my mum, and it wasn't until we showed madness that they stopped. Like, we had to kind of be on crud and be like, no, we're fighting this out. It's enough now, sort of thing. My uncle came and like beat people up, and that's kind of when it stops. But like, so
everyone kind of had an uncle in it, or
Yeah,
someone
yeah,
knew,
everyone had
or someone
that
knew
who
someone
was
with
like,
an uncle.
doesn't care. Like,
Yeah,
he
yeah,
was
yeah.
like-
That one guy who
Yeah.
was like, "What? I'll touch the front
And
line."
also because unlike my parents, he was born here. So
Oh.
he
His
got like
papers.
England's mine.
Yeah, yeah,
my
exactly.
papers. You can't read me nothing sort of thing. Whereas our parents were a bit more like,
Deportation.
yeah, like
What?
taking back
Try
to
me.
where,
Yeah.
sort of thing. So his attitude was just different. But school, primary school, I think I was like 2 of us, was 2 black people in my primary school. Yeah. And then secondary school, I moved secondary schools, and that was very, very multicultural.
Yeah.
So like before secondary school, I didn't really know many black people outside of my family.
Oh, mad. Okay.
Yeah, like I knew some of my friends in Forest Gate, but we moved when I was like 9, so we're not keeping in touch with anyone. So like all of my friends until secondary school was white. And then I remember even in secondary school, we had like a nice little mixed group. Like there was white girls and black girls, were all in a mix. And then, honestly, we got to year 9 and the black girls went apart and then the white girls went apart. It was so interesting how that works. And I remember I was watching a TV show recently called Little Fires Everywhere. And there's a bit where the woman's telling her daughter that she's like her friend's her white best friend, and the black woman telling her daughter that she's going to let you down.
Wow.
Like just one day she's going to let you down. And I thought back and I was like, yeah, at one point, all of my white friends let me down. Like in school, they all snaked me, or they didn't support me when someone was being racist. Like something happened where their whiteness meant more to them than us being friends. Which it was their privilege to them. There's like, why should I give that up for you, sort of thing.
Yeah.
So honestly, by year 9, we became 2 separate groups. To the point of even when we went to prom, we literally all the black girls got a limo with all the black boys, and there was one white girl that came in with us, and I remember her parents were racist and they refused to come to my house because the limo came and picked us up from my house, and they refused to enter my house.
Really?
Yeah.
Were they even more vexed that the limo was black?
Like,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
you got a black
What?
so you got
You got
white limo.
a black
But I
brethren and you
remember-
come with the black limo?
Even in the pictures, they were all there, and there's this white girl, and her parents refused to enter my house. All the parents came into my house. My mum had made like sandwiches and drinks for everyone to take pictures, but they refused to come into the house. And she like liked black boys, and they used to bully her for it. They used to call her like a N-word wife. That's
Okay.
actively what her parents used to call her. So it was like, yeah, the divide happened from year 9, if I'm honest. We just
Wow.
split
That's
up.
early.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yourself?
My experience is pretty identical. Like I went like pretty literally, like I went to, like I was saying, like both my schools were predominantly white. So I think that's where it differed. So for me, I never had the multicultural experience until I went to uni. And so when I went to Brunel, I was like, wow, like black, like I didn't know anything. Like I grew up very sheltered. I didn't know anything outside of my family really. Like my parents were overprotective, or strict. Let me just keep it real. It was a bit of both. They were strict and they were overprotective, so I wasn't really allowed to like hang out on the estate that I grew up on. It was very guarded, very sheltered. But secondary school, yeah, it was the same sort of thing. Like I had my own set of friends, but we were, first of all, I was a geek in secondary school, but me and all the kind of non-black people were friends. So those were my friends. So there was a girl in my crew, Filipino, my other friend who was mixed, another friend who was Asian, one white girl. It was just very like kind of multicultural, so we all gravitated towards one another in secondary school. And then, year 9 came, and then suddenly, because I went to the sixth form at my school, it was like that summer, everyone went away and realised that, no, actually, like, we can't be friends anymore, and came back. We went to sixth form, and then it was very segregated. And then, because in the sixth form, they would, other people could join from other schools, so it wasn't just the people that went to the secondary school. And then just like a lot more, like, black and brown people joined the sixth formers, and then I made friends with those people, and it was just like, honestly, like, one of my best friends that I was really, really close with, and she had my back in so many different situations. She was a middle class white girl, and we had completely different experiences. She came from money, like her dad was a headmaster of a school, and her mum was like a deputy head of another school. And I remember the first time I went to her house, I didn't even know people had 2 living rooms, you know. I was like, what is this? Yes. I was like, whoa, like, I was just looking around, and she introduced me to this thing called piccalilli.
What's that?
Exactly, it is bougie. So it's basically like fancy mustard, but it's like mustard but made with pickles, but it's not pickles.
Okay.
It's not like.
What do you have that with?
Sandwiches.
What, you just fling it in this bread and that?
No, so I went to her house, and she had this like banging house, and then her mum was like, oh, we're gonna like do like food before we have dinner, and she made us piccalilli and ham sandwiches on thick loaf bread that I'd never seen.
That sounds like the richest thing.
Well, it's lit. I'd only seen normal sliced breads, yeah. And then I'm seeing like bread that you cut, like bloomers and that. And she sliced the bloomer, and it was like she sliced it, and then it was that fat, you know, that good ham with the fat on the side. That's that good. Yeah. And then piccalilli.
I bet you remember the meal.
I can taste it as I'm talking. And I was like, wow, I just honestly never seen anything like that. But then honestly, like, I remember having this wake up moment where I was like, oh my God, one day she's going to want to come to my house.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And
I was like, oh my God, my house is nothing like this, like blah, blah, blah. But she came from the kind of family that was they were just nice people. And I remember I was like, oh, you know, one day you should come to my house, but you probably won't want to, like, kind of trying to turn her off.
Yeah.
And then her mum was like, no, she's going to come to your house. Like, she will come to your house. And she came to my house, and, you know, she ate what we ate, and I don't know, like, I don't want to sound grateful because she was my friend and she should have done, but when I look back on that experience, it could have gone very left. But she was just really accepting of like how I lived on an estate and shared a room with my sister, and I just never felt judged by her, and I always remember that friend. But then when we got to sixth form, we just stopped talking. And it was the weirdest thing. It was like that summer holiday, we started off talking all the time, and then the conversations just were less and less and less. And then by the time we went back to school, it was just like she was with her middle class white friends and I was with my friends, and it was just like, it just is what it is, kind of thing.
Just going off what you something you said, yeah. Was you like embarrassed about the type of food that you ate, in terms of like, was that part of the embarrassment when it was like bringing people home and stuff, like the type of food you ate and maybe even how you ate it?
Yeah, because for me it was like, we went to her house and had piccalilli sandwiches and stuff, and then her mum made, like, I can't remember what she made for the main meal, but it was when you were coming to my house, you were having fried chips and egg and bacon.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean?
English. My friends were having rice.
Yeah.
Rice and stew alongside with me.
The thing with me is I was a fussy eater as a kid, so my brother and sister loved hard Ghanaian food, but my mum would always make me something separate.
Okay.
So when she came to my house, that's what we had, kind of thing. But yeah, I was more embarrassed about my house, because obviously she's got this massive house and I grew up on an estate, and it was just like, I live upstairs, you know, we don't have 2 living rooms, we don't have this, we don't have that. So it was more that angle as opposed to food, but it was definitely something that went through my mind as well.
Yeah, it was different because my friends were also working class. So none of us was rich in terms of like secondary school, like my white friends, none of us was rich. And I was never embarrassed for them to come round because we all kind of lived the same sort of lifestyle. It was just culturally, like, so for example, when I went in, I'd had to like bow a little to say hi to my mum. Yeah. And my mum is not someone that thinks, oh, because this person's not that culture, they don't have to do it. My mum would be like, no. You have to do it as well. So they would have to do it as well. And I used to like, I remember like cringing before they had to say hello. And I'd tell them before, I was like, don't say hi, don't wave, like just be like, good evening auntie, and like bow down a little. And I like had to tell them that because that's what my mum expected. One thing I was embarrassed by was I had a sleepover once. I didn't have friends in my house often. My mum didn't like it. Like it was something we didn't have. It didn't happen often.
Yeah, I didn't have.
So yeah, the one time it happened, we have a bucket bath.
Oh, for real?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So she was like, how do I shower?
Yeah.
Oh, you have to fill up this bucket. But it was really weird because I think she was like, oh, this is a fun unit. So she was like doing the bucket. But then I think she was there for time. Mum was like, your friend has used 4 buckets. But when I went went to college, a lot of the people in college were a lot richer than me. Like a lot of the white kids in college were like Haven sixth form, which was just like they all had Mini Coopers at the age of 17. That sort of like that was their reality sort of thing. But they never came. I never let any friend come to my house. But then also we'd split up so much that we were friending like in class when it came to social. Do you know what as well? I think it's worth factoring in social aspects. I think that's why you kind of drift apart.
Yes. Yeah.
Because you start wanting to not want to go to what they're doing anymore. You want to go out to like different nightclubs. You want to hear different kind of music, or you want to see different kind of boys. Yeah. So because of that, it means that you just kind of like grow apart because how you socialise is now different.
Yeah, of course. See, in like the school days and like sixth form and stuff like that, like though that era, did it shape your perspective of what beauty was?
Okay, so I had this thing, I was like, every single girl has had this thing of feeling not pretty. Or like, oh, they had their insecurities, and blah, 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 blah. What it is for white people is it was never because they were white.
Yeah.
For a lot of black girls, sometimes you thought you was unpretty because you were black. Like they probably thought they were unpretty because of their weight or their hair or whatever, but it was never because of their colour of their skin, because they were never made to feel like that was unattractive. So like I grew up in the era of Sugar magazine and Miss magazine and Bliss magazine, and these are like teenage magazines. There were all white people in those magazines. Like the diversity was if you got a ginger girl.
Yeah,
I'm not even
literally.
joking. I'm not even joking.
And that was breaking.
That was breaking the mold.
That was peak diversity.
She's got freckles.
And she's got freckles, ginger curly hair. Oh, mate, they were progressive.
I never saw myself. Yeah. So, but luckily for me, I grew up in a family where my mum's cocky. So by default of being her children, we were buff.
Okay.
Yeah, like so she kind of grew us up in that. But outside of my home, I wasn't made to feel pretty. And again, that's probably why I stopped hanging around with my white friends, because they hung around with boys who told them they were beautiful. And I was always the one left out. Okay. So I was like, okay, let me go to where I'm wanted. So let me go hang around with the black people where black boys find me attractive, where they don't think my lips are big. And I used to get the big lip thing. Oh,
same.
Oh my.
Every day in primary
rubber
school.
Lips, this, that, and the other. Yeah, and it's just like all these little things make you feel like your assets and what your blackness just wasn't pretty. Especially as a teenage girl, it's not until you admire that you think you're beautiful.
Because you don't just have self-love for no reason.
Because you don't just, who taught you self-love? Like, do you know what I mean? No one, like, our parents would be like, you are beautiful, you are kind. They didn't do all of that stuff that we're doing now when we're raising our kids. Because, yeah, of course you're fine. Like, why would you not be fine? Like,
you're
of course
healthy.
you're pretty. You're healthy. Like, you're my daughter, you're healthy sort of thing. So it wasn't until, like, I guess for me, guys started being like, oh, like admiring me. That's like, okay, cool, I am pretty. And that never came from white guys or being around those group of people. I was always the ugly friend because I was the othered friend. So although everyone else had their insecurities about what else was going on with them, I had mine because of my skin colour. And also by default of my family, I grew hips quicker. And that wasn't a fun, that wasn't a good thing. No. Yeah.
It's funny how it's changed
that was
now.
Dead. Yeah, exactly. I had thighs quite early and things like that. And it was just like, and then I was like seen as fat. But looking at the pictures now, I was like, oh, I definitely was not fat. I definitely wasn't a big girl. It was just, I just grew a shape earlier on. So I think it took me, it wasn't until I started being around black people that honestly I felt like I was attractive. I remember once, I would have said this story, there was a guy in a year above me who called me Butterface. So it's everything but her face.
Oh my gosh.
How foul.
So that stuck with me. And then I was like, okay, cool. Then I'm just going to be sexy then.
Okay.
Yeah, like, do you know what I mean? If my body's nice, cool, that's what I'm going to run with.
Oh, right. Yeah, I hear
that. So
that.
then that sexualized me early.
Okay.
So
yeah, because then everyone starts looking at you just for the body.
Exactly. Yeah. So I went from like, I never thought beautiful was never something I had until I got older, and so I taught myself that. I think I went from like, oh, cute to sexy. Because I had to, because that's what was deemed attractive. Yeah. If that makes sense.
And essentially, sexy and beauty, there's a fundamental difference in it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Beautiful, a lot of the time when you look at someone and say that they're beautiful, you're looking at their facial aesthetics.
And
when you look at someone and say that they're sexy, you're looking at how they dress and what they...
Yeah. My experiences are the same. like, honestly, identical. Like, I think for me, I realised it quite early, actually, because I fancied boys from the minute I walked into reception, and I was obsessed with this one boy, and I say his name all the time on the podcast. I was obsessed with this one boy, and so I knew I liked boys, but it was weird because I knew
Shout his name out, man. Shout him out.
James
I've said his name so much. One day he's gonna sue me, but I can say his name.
Has he ever hit you up?
No, we follow each other on Instagram, and I don't think he knows that I fancied him. But I remember reception walking in and being like, "Who is that?"
Yeah.
4 years old, like I fancied until the day I left in year 6.
Wow, imagine that.
And then
she stops playing with the Lego and all of that.
No,
and she's
I
like,
was
what?
obsessed with him until I left year 6 and some parts of year 7, and then I got over it. And like, but I knew I wasn't the same, or I never felt pretty like in primary school. It was weird because growing up around my family and around like my parents.
Yeah.
My parents' friends, they always told me, "Oh, Audrey's so like such a pretty little girl." Like I always heard that, but then I'd go to school and I just felt ignored. It wasn't. I never had anyone call me ugly. It was just being ignored.
You were invisible.
Yeah, it was just and I felt it so like much, and even as young as primary school, because there were certain girls that got all the attention from the boys, even that young. And I remember so vividly. How old are you when you're in year 6? Like 10, 11?
Yeah.
And I remember saying to myself, like having this awakening that young, being like, "Oh my God, who's gonna fancy me?" Like you use that word, fancy. And I was like, "Oh my God, who's going to fancy me?" And then I was like, "Oh, well, maybe black boys will." And then I honestly put boys on the back burner for a really, really long time. Like, I didn't think about it. And that was my experience in secondary school. I was always the funny friend, the nice friend. I was like voted like best personality in school. And I remember getting that accolade and being so happy. But then I was like, no, I want to be the pretty one. Like, I want people to like, it just wasn't even a thing to include me. Like I was so invisible in terms of in that aspect of things. Like it was just I was completely like you wouldn't even consider me or I was just in the background. But when it came to like making jokes and being silly and being goofy, like I was always in the mix there.
Yeah, of course.
For me, I didn't feel remotely attractive or think of myself like as pretty or any until I got to uni. And that was affirmed through black boys.
But there's something really dangerous about needing to feel beautiful by affirmation of other people.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Because it's something that we were just never taught. No one randomly says you're so like.
Yeah.
Whereas like now, for example, with my niece, I'm like affirming that into her from early.
Yeah.
Because I don't want it to have to come from people, because people are fleeting. Like one day you can find me the most beautiful girl in the world. Tomorrow you'll be like, no, you saw someone on Insta that banged more.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So like
exactly.
now, like, and if I'm relying on what my beauty is according to what you think about it, that's really, really dangerous. But I'll be honest, I had to see myself through other people's gazes to deem myself pretty or not.
Yeah, for real.
Self-love wasn't even a
It wasn't even a thought.
It wasn't even a
that.
thought. It wasn't even like, you know, I'd heard it, but
I never even heard it.
Like, no, as in like I'd heard people say it to me.
Oh, okay.
But like it was never like a thing of you must love yourself. Like no one is going to tell you like it's an internal thing. Like I never heard those things. It was something I had to learn for myself.
I didn't think it was possible to self-love. I didn't.
I just thought it was a bad thing because you're always taught to be humble.
Self-indulgent and selfish.
Yeah, but and see that's the issue is as well is that like sometimes I feel like we have the word selfish like mixed up sometimes because we look at selfish as like a bad thing,
it's not a bad thing.
But it's not always a bad thing.
I
think like see with the self-love thing though, I think that like the conversation should really be had on like how someone can love themselves and why it is important for them to have self-love and stuff like that. Because just kind of going off what you said, when you start to go with the opinions of other people, then, and especially when it's positive, this is why I always say to people, like try not to take anything too personal when it comes to people, whether it's good or bad. And I'll use it as a good example. It's like someone could constantly tell you how good you are, but if you don't feel it within yourself, then it means nothing. But then what happens is once that stops, you're out there trying to find where it is that someone will tell you. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, definitely.
So that's where it can become quite dangerous. But anyway, in your careers, like earlier on in your career, what was you doing after school actually? Like once you finished uni and stuff like, did you go uni?
Yeah.
Did you go uni?
We went to the same uni.
Is that how you met?
No, we met on tour.
Years older than me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, mad. So wait, just by chance you met, like you was at uni, the same uni?
Yeah. And both
by
grew up in
chance we're
Essex.
in the same hospital. By chance,
Exactly. It's
Oh,
mad. It's like it was meant to be.
Well, I didn't even know that. So like, what was it? Like, what was the plan? What was your thought process on like, boom, I've left now. What was you trying to do?
I knew exactly what I was going to do from year 10. Like, do you know when you do a year 10 work experience? I did mine at Sugar magazine because I was going to be a journalist. Like I've had like career thoughts before that. I was going to be an actress. I can't act. And then I was like, okay, I'll be a fashion designer, but I can't draw. So that was just like, I was trying out what different things looks like from quite early. Just because I'm the youngest. So all of my siblings had been like, okay, I want to do this, I want to do that. So I felt the need to find what I was going to do quite early. So yeah, I was going to be a journalist. So I did my work experience when I was in year 10. And then from then I was like, I'm going to do everything career-wise and education-wise to take me to that point. So I did a sandwich course at uni, and one of the years I took a year out and I worked at a publishing place.
Okay.
And then from there, my career just kind of stayed within writing beauty, which is always really interested me, being a black woman writing beauty in the UK, because so many times I remember like pitching like a black cover and they'll be like, no, like it doesn't sell. And that was said to me like straight in my face, like it doesn't sell.
Talk more on that actually. What were them like? What were those meetings and conversations like?
Mate,
because obviously if you've got a certain thought process, but it doesn't align with the bigger majority in the office, like how do you essentially deal with that?
You fit in.
Yeah.
I was not audacious enough to say a word. I was suggested it, like, no, but yeah, you're right, yeah, sure, yeah. The things I had to learn about like white hair, because I mean, like I said it before, like when you watch telly and they wash their hair every day, I'm like, why are you washing your hair every day? What's your lot's problem? Like, why do you need to wash it every day? But those were things that are shown as the norm and not explained to us.
Yeah.
So I've always said, okay, cool. So when I started getting more confident in my career, I was like, I'm going to make sure I write about black content, and I'm going to make it a norm. I'm not going to over-explain stuff. And I was adamant that I didn't want to work for a niche black magazine. I wanted to work for something that was in everybody's faces. That's why I kept applying to work at BuzzFeed, which I eventually did, because I wanted black content to just be there. I didn't want you to have to go look for it. I didn't want you to have to go find some shop in thingies to go find that magazine. I wanted it to be in your face at all times, and that was really, really important to me. And like to not like explain what a bantu knot is, because nobody explained to me what balayage is. Nobody explained to me what so many like tresses. I was using words like tresses. Like, what does that mean? But like I had to like learn this stuff in order to write majority white beauty.
Well, I don't even know what is a tress.
Hair.
Oh man.
It just means hair.
So why did you just not say hair?
Because
it's
fancy.
that's not fancy. That's boring.
Oh, so,
and then I was like,
so what do you like? What's the context? I was combing my tresses.
No, like long,
long
glowing tresses. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Sort of,
All right. I hear that.
Yeah. And then like I'm the only black girl in the office up until I worked at BuzzFeed. I was the only black person in every office I'd worked in. I remember once going to an event with my editor, and they took a picture. I left, and then they tagged me in a picture. It was a white girl and a black girl, and it tagged me in it. It wasn't me. The girl wasn't me.
Oh man.
Yeah. I was like, that's not me.
Yeah.
And I remember I won an award once for like writing about like being a journalist. And in the booklet of the award, they had a picture, and the girl in the picture, just a random black girl, that wasn't me, but it was my name.
What the hell?
It was Patricia Bright. Yeah. They put a picture of like a YouTuber
wild.
that wasn't me.
She's not even another journalist.
She's not even a journalist. Yeah.
That's nuts.
It's like, what did you search? Did you
Yeah.
think about what you were doing? So it's been like,
Did that upset you?
Yeah. Absolutely. I've like the racism I faced in that world is what's put me off journalism. I don't like it anymore now. I want nothing to do with it.
Wow.
And that's been because of experiences.
Yeah.
Of like not being able to write like. Black History Month came and I crammed all of my black content in that month. I was like, right, I can't say no now. Don't do all out now sort of thing. So it was like those kind of frustrations.
Yeah.
It was even frustrations of like, there was like a few of us that all worked together that were all black, and it's lunchtime now, but we'd plan to go out separately so they don't think we're ganging up together.
But at the time, that is the most normal.
Yeah.
That wasn't even that long ago.
It's just
It
it's
wasn't
just
long
like
ago, yeah.
this is what we do, innit?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Or even like we scouts had to laugh because like it was like we're laughing too loud and people were staring at us sort of thing. So it was, it's being black in the workplace. My blackness has never been more apparent to me than in an office.
Yeah, same.
Serious.
You change your hair at the weekend. You're like, oh, okay, then
it's anxiety. It's actually anxiety.
Inducing. Like,
it's
so
a big
long.
whole conversation. Yeah.
Oh my days.
Go and talk on that.
Yeah, my career path was like, honestly, I know I keep on saying this, but kind of same. I wanted to be a journalist as well. The difference is Tolly was successful. I didn't make it. But I think it's good to have both perspectives of when you want to do something and you don't make it. Like, how do you end up in certain positions? And like, I always thought about not random jobs, but like not being funny, no one grows up thinking they want to be in HR. No one grows up wanting to be a PA. They're kind of jobs that you just find yourself in. And that was my experience. Like, I left uni and I wanted to be a journalist. I was convinced that's what I was going to do. I loved writing, but I wanted to do more like entertainment stuff. That's always been my thing, like celebrity gossip. And I love a bit of goss. Yeah, but I wasn't successful. Like, I tried that, but I think it was a weird time for me when I graduated, because when I graduated, print was going and digital was a thing, and I had just done a qualification kind of in print. So it was just like, it was just so hard, like trying to find a job. I applied and I was not successful. And I remember I got an interview at OK Magazine, and I was convinced I was going to get it because I had done, I'd worked at New Magazine for a really long time. Kind of seasonally, and they're under the same publishing house, so I'd gotten the editor of New Magazine to write me like a recommendation. So I was like, well, obviously with a recommendation from the editor of New, I was obviously going to get this junior writer position at OK. And I went there with all my clippings, because this was before the internet, so you'd have to go with your actual clippings and your physical things that you'd done. And I'd worked at like a local magazine, Walthamstow Now, and so I took all of that, and I was convinced I was going to get the job, and I didn't get the job. That day I had that interview, and I had another interview lined up for a receptionist job at a PR company. And that was because I'd worked in Selfridges for years, and I needed like a career job. And so I quit Selfridges, and I was like, it's time to find a proper career job. Anyway, so I had that interview, and I was so convinced I was going to get this OK job. I almost didn't go to my receptionist interview. I almost didn't go. I was like, no, I've got this in the bag. Like, I'm just going to blow it off. But then something was like, no, just go. You're in West. Like, you might as well go. So I went to the interview, and then funnily enough, I got the receptionist job, and then I didn't get the OK job. And I just went home and cried. I was just like, I just cried, because they told me there and then, because it was like stages. So I found out that day that I didn't get it. And I was just like, but this is for me. Like, how can I not get this job? I just thought it was like the perfect role. Anyway, whatever. So I ended up as a receptionist at this PR company. And that experience was mad, because it was high-end fashion, like luxury fashion. And I think like fashion PR and stuff like that are jobs that like loads of like young girls want to get into. But oh my God, you have to have a thick skin.
Really?
And, like, I never cried so much in a job in my whole entire life. It was weird, because I was the only black person. No, it was me and another black woman, and she was quite senior. She was like a director, which was pretty much unheard of at the time, and in fashion. And so I was on reception, and this other one other black woman, and we were the only people. Everyone else was like middle class white girls that worked at this agency. And it was my first week being there, I experienced what I look back now and I think was racism. At the time, I didn't think it. I just thought this girl was a and she just gave me a hard time. I think honestly she saw me as like lower, because I was on reception, and I think she was maybe an account executive, so she's not senior, but I'm lower than her, so she can talk to me any which kind of way. And she was just like so horrible. Like, I'd never done this girl nothing. Like, I'm on reception, I didn't even sit in the office with them, and she was so nasty to me. Like, she was rude. Like, she would throw letters at me, like literally throw them and be like, deliver this or post this. And she'd be like, yeah, Audrey can do that. Like, just really, really would undermine me. But I'm the kind of person that, one, I suffered massively from imposter syndrome, and here I am, this black girl in this high-end luxury company. I'm definitely not trying to make noise, and I'm also in my probation.
Do you know what? Just for people who don't know what that is, explain what
imposter syndrome is. So imposter syndrome is when you feel like grateful for every opportunity you get as a black person, or sometimes you feel like maybe out of place in certain spaces.
Yeah, or like you get found out. So like, even though you've got the skill set for it, it's kind of like you're still not worthy.
You're still not worthy.
Eventually someone's going to catch you out.
Exactly. It's exactly that. And so, but I'm a probation person. I'm just like, I don't play my probation. Like, I'm on time every day. And then, so I was like, I'm just going to firm it for a bit and we'll see what happens. But she was just horrible. And then one day my boss called me into the office and he was like, oh, can I have a word? And I was like, damn, like, what have I done? Like, what's happened? And he was like, oh, I heard someone's been giving you a hard time. I hadn't said a word to anybody, so I wasn't friends with anybody. I minded my business and did my job. And then I was like, well, I'm not a snitch, but seeing as you mentioned it, you know, Jenny's been doing it. It was you. Like, I was like, I don't know what this girl's problem is with me. Like, she just doesn't like me. And then my boss said to me, someone said they witnessed her being nasty to you in the kitchen. And I was like, she was, basically. And I sang like a canary. And then my boss was like, well, I just want to let you know she's gone. We've sacked her.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, huh? And he was like, we don't tolerate bullying here. Like, go do your job. And it was so weird because it was just this extreme thing of like having this experience with this girl and then having this white man kind of be my white savior. Do you know what I mean? So I was just like, oh, okay. And like, he really had my back in that role. And like, we had a great relationship, but then it was honestly really, really hard. Like, you have to have a thick skin. Like, there was one of the directors who was Devil Wears Prada 101. Like, she was harsh. And I remember one time she made me cry in the boardroom. And I always wondered if she went extra hard on me because I was a black girl kind of thing. Because she would make a lot of microaggressive comments.
Yeah.
Weird comments about my hair and, oh, you know, how'd you do that little thing with you? How'd you do that little thing?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? She was one of them ones.
Do you know what the worst one is when you like lunch? What's that smell?
If you don't leave my jollof,
like,
if
tomato,
exactly. And the thing is, it smells banging as well. Like, you know what it is. You smell the flavors. Don't know brand new. And it was. I just remember her humiliating me in front of a client, like in a board meeting. And as the receptionist, it was my job to set up the room. And she was like, "Who the set up the boardroom like this? We don't use these mugs when clients are here," like screaming. And she knew I did it. Do you know what I mean? But she just wanted to undermine me. It was honestly, I had so many good experiences doing that job, but it was also very, very hard.
I can't imagine being in a workplace and it just being super stressed like that.
Yeah, it
like
was
waking up not really wanting to be there.
Yeah, it was the weirdest thing. It was like such a cognitive thing with me because I loved the job at the same time.
Okay.
I actually loved the job. It was a nice experience. Like, I got to do a lot of fun things. You know, I got to go to loads of sick events and stuff like that, and I learned a lot. It was my first proper job, but it was also very hard. Yeah. And when I worked in Selfridges before, there was black people everywhere. So, you know, so being like an anomaly was difficult. But then I just went into being a PA, and that's what I've been doing ever since.
I know you talked like just quickly about, you know, your boss essentially being like the white savior or whatnot, yeah. And there is those conversations too, but ultimately, like, he did the right thing.
Oh, he absolutely did.
You know what? If you have a team of people and you've got someone, or you keep hearing that someone is being disruptive and being a certain type of way to staff, maybe because of that, or maybe it isn't. You got to do something about it, innit? And I just feel like now, especially with the uncomfortable conversations and stuff that are being had about this one particular thing, or this thing in particular, yeah, it's like, yeah, there's elements of that where we kind of need a bit of that. You know what I'm saying? If someone is stepping out of line or whatnot, don't make an excuse for them.
Do you know what? I think we should stop calling it difficult conversations. I think that kind of makes people feel like, oh, like, it's not difficult. Black people are asking you to stop being racist. That's true. Black people are asking you to check your privilege. Black people are asking you just to stop your crap. Like, that's not difficult. And it's also like the difficulty becomes put on us. It's like, because it's like, oh, I don't want to make them feel uncomfortable. No, you need to make them feel uncomfortable. I've had my whole life of being uncomfortable because I have to check what I'm bringing for lunch so it doesn't smell. I have to check, like, if your music. Well, I remember being in the office and they used to have a playlist and you'd add your own songs to the playlist. I'm like, oh, for goodness sake, I can't even pick the songs I really want to add because I don't want anyone to feel like weird about it. So I've had to. I honestly would leave the workplace, and that was the only time I got to be like,
breathe,
actually, like, check yourself. Like, why are you doing what you're doing? And don't say cliche things of like, I can't see colour, or my uncle is black. And that
means you don't see me, bruv.
It's insane to say you can't see colour because you definitely can. You tan, and you're aware that you've tanned. You can see colour. Even when we think about people of colour, I hate that phrase, and they talk about black Latinos. If you cannot see colour, why are Latinos not all Latinos?
Exactly.
Why have you separated black Latinos from
Afro-Latinos? Yeah.
You're seeing colour.
Yeah.
Don't act like that doesn't make you base me differently because you've seen my colour. It is my colour. It is that black boy's colour that made you cross the road. So you saw it.
Of course. Yeah, of course.
It is my colour that made you call me sassy before I even spoke.
Word.
Like, how do you know I am? But how do you know that? I ain't spoke yet.
Yeah.
And it's my colour that made you judge me because of the last black person that worked here.
Those particular industries, though, see, like today, do you feel like there's a change now?
I don't know. Like, the thing is, in the workplace, I have minimized myself so much that honestly, I can't even answer the question because I mind my business so much to the point where I'm not even looking anymore. Like, I've got tunnel vision when I'm in the office because honestly, it's so draining. Like, when you I've done both, where I've put myself out there, and then things are so blatant that it's upsetting. Yeah. So I've went down this route of I'm just going to keep my head down and not talk to anybody because I don't want you to ask me about my hair. I don't want you to ask me about my weekend and give me some microaggression about, oh, did you go to the Snoop Dogg concert? Like, someone literally said that to me before. I was like, I didn't even know he was in town. Like, and why was I? Do you know what I mean? Like, so I honestly don't know.
That's imagine.
And I know if I said
you didn't even know Snoop was
exactly. I
someone
didn't,
just made the assumption. He tried to do a 2 + 2.
Yeah,
and
that
came
was
up with 78.
It was the most random thing. Like honestly, I hadn't even turned on my computer.
Have I spoke about Snoop Dogg
like,
before?
never in my life have I ever mentioned this man, because I had that experience where I'd invested so much in the workplace. I was that person like, oh, let's go for drinks, let's do this, like proper involved, and then it kind of bit me in the bum. Like in other spaces I've been like, no, I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm just going to go do my work and go home. So I'm not even clued on to what's happening. I'm not really paying attention because I'm not involved, and that's a privilege. But
when I was working, I got full into it. I think I was like, even the diversity leader. I think at one point they took a role about a diversity leader or something, like an extra curriculum, because I was just like, I'm going to fight it. But then I did that, and then like I remember one time someone wrote a letter with something about, I think we should talk about like how white men are like looked down upon as well. Like people use white men as an insult, and I was like, I'm out.
Yeah.
Like I was like,
that's my cue to leave.
I can't. There's nothing I can change here, sort of thing. But what's funny about all the diversity chats and diversity things is everybody that's there knows already.
Yeah.
If it's an optional thing, everyone that's there already knows. What you need to get is the people in the office that chose not to come to that meeting.
Make it mandatory. I've done a lot of like unconscious bias trainings, and they're awful. And a lot of the times the people that are running these training courses aren't even the people that are affected by it. Yeah. It's just like, you know, middle-aged like white women and middle-aged white men talking about unconscious bias, and I feel like it's not even specific. It, you know, like it was, I remember one time they were like, oh, did you know that there's more men that work for FTSE 100 companies called John than there are women?
Really?
And that's the only thing I took from it. I was like, right. I was like, that's really interesting. But I just feel a popular name. Yeah, that's it. And I just feel like the training needs to be specific, and we need to get real about it, because it's so loose and it's so like diluted. No one's learning anything. Like where I work, they made everybody do it, but then the training is diluted. So then what's the point?
What, like, this is a bit of a broad question though, but like, what do you feel from your perspectives anyway, that needs to be changed in this country? Like, what do you feel needs to be changed?
I mean, white people need to stop being racist. What so much needs to be changed for so many different, like, I read an article recently, and the headline was the British invented racism and America mastered it, which I thought was hilarious. What needs to be changed? Though. Yeah,
that is true still.
I think for one thing that needs to be changed amongst many other things is this idea that the racism in England is not over, or it's not that bad. And I think they're saying it's not that bad, and comparing it to America makes white people feel like, well, we're not killing them.
I'm not doing that.
Yeah. We're not killing them. Yeah, we're not that bad. So it kind of makes them feel a bit like, well, and I think that what massively needs to change is this idea that like this space, this England, belongs to only white people. Because it's that kind of leads everything. Like, this is ours, this is our country. And you talk now, someone will say, you go back to your country then. Well, if you don't like it, go back.
Yeah. I've seen that more, like, I've literally seen that in this period now. I've seen that in so much more. Like, that is like a cop. That is like, people just go back to that straight away.
Yeah, straight away,
go back. You say one thing, well, then why don't you sleep then?
Go back then.
Go back. If you don't like it, mate, go back. You talk about the statue. I remember, like, I noticed this as well, A couple of people was like, talking about the Churchill statue and that, and like unpacking what Churchill was about. Yeah. You say one thing, well, if you don't like it, then
you go back. Like, it's a lack of education, wanting to be ignorant and wanting to stay ignorant because it benefits them. Yeah. Because the thing with racism is about power.
Of
course.
So even people that like, and then people have the argument that like, you know, I've got black friends or I've got a black partner. Like, loving a singular black person doesn't make you not racist. It's not enough to just, I really love my black mate.
Of course.
Like,
or you might like Stormzy.
That doesn't make you, might like grime music. That doesn't make you not racist. It's your privilege, it's your power that you're using. And many people are not willing to drop that.
Well, sometimes as well, sometimes all you need to do is let someone talk long enough. And it will show you exactly where their head's at.
Yeah, definitely.
It's hilarious because people will say, like, oh, Britain is not racist, And the Conservatives posted a Happy Father's Day picture on social media, on Twitter. And the picture they used was a black man and a black kid. And all of the comments were like, well, that's that, or at least he stayed. Like, all of the comments under that tweet were insane.
That's wild.
It was like, what, 0.2% of the population of black dad that stayed. Like, why are you using black people? And it's like, this is the same people that will say it's not racist. Like, are you not insane? Like, the proof is right there in front of you. This country is so racist.
It is.
And it's the racism that will keep you stagnant. Like, for a lot of my career, I stayed in junior roles. It wasn't because anybody above me was better than me. And yeah, cocky, cool, I don't care.
No, of course, you're allowed to flex on that.
And like, I was in this career for 7 years, and I remember one time applying for a role that was higher than me, and the person who was interviewing me, like, I was in the same job, I was in the same company, I went to get apply for a higher role, and the person interviewing me, he was like the editor of the whole thing. She said to me, she was just like, "But do you think people will take you seriously? You know, like being young and black."
Damn.
And the person that got the job was white but younger than me.
Yes, that's.
So what you meant was, would I be taken seriously as a leader being a black woman?
Yeah. It's insane.
I think everything needs to be dismantled, unfortunately, and that's why this 2020 purge.
Yeah, burn it down and start.
But it's just it's good, it's needed, it's necessary. Everything needs to be dismantled because all the institutions that ultimately like make the decisions and that kind of like ensure like what kind of lives we're going to live are all fundamentally racist. Until we burn those things down and start again, I don't really know what else we can do. But I always say like, everyone that wants to be on the right side of history needs to make the changes that they can make. And so you don't always have to think global. Like, ultimately the whole system needs to come down, but us three as individuals can't do that. We don't have the power to do that. But if everybody is doing something,
they're gonna have to want to do that.
And this is it.
I don't know if
not everyone does.
No, exactly. Not everybody does.
I think the only time that it will seem as though that they might want to is if there's a financial gain. If there's like a gain in it somehow, then you would see a change. But other than that, the change wouldn't happen for the right reason. Yeah,
and it's not going to happen in our lifetime.
I don't think it's going to happen in my lifetime.
I don't think it's going to happen in our lifetime. Maybe our grandkids' time. Who knows?
I don't have hope anymore.
Yeah, I'm kind of just like
I've lost hope. It doesn't mean I'm going to stop fighting.
Yeah, of course.
But I've lost hope.
I don't see
for me to see it
things changing dramatically in our time. But I do think that if everybody does their small part within their communities, like within their families, then eventually it will happen. But I'm not particularly optimistic either, but I just think so much needs to change.
I'm optimistic to a point, but I don't think it's going to happen in my lifetime or in ours.
But then when will it happen then? Because it's just like, we change something and people have been fighting for this before us for time.
Yeah.
Like, before we even thought about, people have been fighting for this. So like,
this is not new, obviously.
When is it going to happen? And like a small change is not enough. Like, it's just, I don't know. It's
it's defeating.
Frustrating.
I think it's just, do you know what I think it is? I think somehow it's just about educating the super young. If you get them early, okay. It's very different, but maybe you might understand the sentiment when I say this, yeah? So, see, like in the music industry, at one point, there was a structure in how records would be essentially distributed and kids and people would kind of get them, yeah? So it was like maybe a record label would sign an artist, whatever. They'd get the song, give it to the radio plugger, try and get the DJ to play it. Then it would be aimed at working on getting a Radio 1 play. And then it was essentially pushed in people's faces where you heard it all of the time.
Yeah.
And you just naturally... You just bought into it because that's just all you heard. But now things have changed now because you got YouTube, you got all these streaming services and stuff like that, yeah. And young people essentially go to what they want to go to without something being pushed in their face. Yeah. Hence, one of the reasons why Stormzy is as big as he is, because if this was just down to the structure of the way that the music business used to work, you could easily block that. You could easily put things in someone's way or his way or whatnot to suppress that success that he's having. But now kids can just go to it. You can't just push what they are, how they feel about certain things to the side anymore because they can do it themselves. So with that being said, I say all of that to say this, that like, if you go to get them super early, regardless of what the system or whoever tries to put in their face, like they will see and feel things differently because of what they see in and also the environment they're in. The only issue is that yes, you could see a change in London, you could see a change in Manchester, you could see a change in Birmingham, You could see a change in Liverpool, and you could see a change in like Glasgow and stuff like that. But it's the inner cities and towns that are like outside of that, where it's like predominantly white, for example, that is very different. Because like we sit and people talk about, there's Black history should be taught in schools and stuff like that. In London, Manchester, Birmingham, and these places, it could be very effective. But in these areas where it is just predominantly white, like what would be the incentive really for them to turn around and say, you know what, we want to teach them this really? Like we want to.
I think that's why we need to infiltrate spaces at all levels. Do you know what I mean? So I think obviously we've got like entertainment and stuff. We've kind of got that down, but we need to be in the school system. We need to be in the police force. We need to be everywhere, because I honestly think like revolution is a car. Like everyone, like it needs different parts to move. So it's not enough to just be doing one thing and thinking that's going to, like if we've got more Black governors and more Black people in the education system that are enforcing that, no, Black history is good, because we've got a prolific history in this country, in the UK, like, but it's not taught. Do you know what I mean? Like UK Black history is not taught. We're taught about slavery and a bit about American history, but what about our own UK Black history? Like that's a joke that's not taught. Black people have contributed to this country since Windrush. Do you know what I mean?
Teaching you is telling you not only what they've done to you, but telling you your power. They don't want that. Knowledge is power.
This is
if I can strip that away from you, I'd rather not tell you.
That's the thing, and a lot of the books and stuff like that have all been destroyed.
Yeah.
So it is really, really difficult. But I do agree. I do think we do need to start with the kids. But it's like you can teach people, but unless everything changes as a system, because you can tell your kid they're beautiful every day, but when they put on the TV and they only see whiteness as beauty, that's just going to conflict everything you've taught them.
Essentially, I guess it's like the big changes are in the hierarchies, isn't it?
Yeah.
The hierarchies are like essentially just a small group of people a lot of the time. So once the changes are in there, then it
just filters down.
And also, how are we telling our kids without taking their innocence away from them? I don't want, like, my sisters had to tell my 6-year-old niece and my 9-year-old nephew about Black Lives Matter and what's happening in America. Like, I don't want to burden that with them.
I don't like that.
And like my nephew's reaction was like, I'll beat them up.
Oh.
I'll just beat them up if anyone does anything to me. But I don't want to have to burden kids with that, because like white kids are not taught that someone's going to kill you because you're white. Or someone might not kill you, but you know what I mean? Like you are of a danger, or people that look like you are getting killed because of their colour. Yeah.
Well, essentially, it's like, you know what? There's an issue, young boy, young girl, there's an issue that's happening right now. But I just want, while I explain to you this issue, I want you to know that this is not your problem. This is not your problem. It's their problem. But I'm going to tell you why there is this problem and the mindset of where this problem comes from. But don't feel like you need to go out there and smash everyone's
and be like,
I
need to be the one to change.
Because you don't need to change nothing.
It's a lose-lose situation, because you have to arm them with that information so that when they go to school and someone does, because it is, and it's sad because it's going to happen. It's happened.
9 and 6. It's happened already.
You want them to be prepared for when it does happen. Like one day someone is going to say something horrible to you because you're Black. And like even then you have to break it down and be like, because you're brown, because they literally just see it as brown. Like, do you know what I mean?
I'm dark brown and you're light brown. Like, that's how they see it literal colour. And my friend is beige.
Yeah.
That's honestly how she talks. Sort of thing. So then it's like being called names, and she's like, wait, why am I being called names? And you have to teach them. And then it's like, why are these little white kids knowing that? They're racist parents. Why are they thinking like that?
Yeah. Well, that remember what you said about the kid that said to you about your
poo because you're brown.
Yeah, so that kid probably didn't realise.
He went on to ask me out though.
Did he? Yeah. All right.
When I got buff.
So this is the thing, and that's why it makes it even more certified. He didn't even know really the detriment of what it is that he's saying. But what it is, he's at home and he's hearing his parents or whoever are talking 100%. A certain way. So he just goes to school and he just regurgitates that.
Imagine your kid hearing their dad say, well, if they don't like it, they should go back. He will go to school
and
say that. Why don't you go back?
Yeah, exactly.
Secret Life of 4-year-olds, when that little girl was on the phone and she was like, Darren, stop calling, you're not the dad.
Yeah, they imitate their parents. Exactly.
4 years old.
Imitating what you're
saying. They're just literally copying. Like, how can a 4-year-old say you're not the dad? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, that is crazy.
Yeah, it's nuts, man. What inspires you?
Well, that's a big question. Donald's. Mad loaded.
Oh, God. What inspires me? Do you know what? My future children, God willing, that inspires me. I kind of want to... I want to leave the world in a better place than I found it. That kind of inspires me. Like I do want to see like progress and change and stuff like that. But you know, what inspires me is like my friends, my family, just wanting to be happy. Like happiness inspires me. Honestly, just living a peaceful, carefree life is what inspires me. Like I know that sounds really airy fairy, but it's true.
Do you mean like what inspires me to do what exactly? Like to
take it how you want it.
My expectations. Like I have high expectations of myself and like going to reach that. And they're not goals, because I think I have a problem with setting goals and putting like age to goals. And I used to do that. I used to bang that out. By 30, I'll be this. And then I got there and then I wasn't. And I was like, oh, we need to shift this one up. We can't be thinking like this. Yeah. So I have high expectations of myself in all regards of my life. So I'm a very future thinking person, which can be quite negative because it means I don't live in the moment. But I'm like, if I do this now, how will it affect me tomorrow? How will it affect me 10 years time? So it's my expectations of myself, and I want to make a lot of money.
Yeah, I hear that loud. I hear that
Put it
loud.
out there. Say it.
And lastly, just with everything that is going on aside, which I know is difficult, but everything that's happening aside, like, are you happy?
This is, do you know what? I think you might be the third person to ask me that in this last couple of weeks. And I find it really, everybody knows I'm really worried about the idea of happiness and what it looks like, because sometimes I don't know if I am happy or performing appearance of what happiness looks like.
Okay.
And that's because I'm so in tune in my feelings. Like, you know me, like I feel. So if I feel something, I need to find out the source of what this
I'm the
is.
same.
Like,
so, and when you feel something, do you feel it deeply
like,
as well?
Yeah, she does. She
like
feels it
deep,
all.
like with all of my heart, all
Trust
of
me,
my
I'm
core.
that, you know.
When I'm happy, I'm like, are you really happy? Performing what happiness is meant to look like. So I'm like, but am I happy? Yes, because when I'm not, I'm aware of what that feels like.
Yes.
So yes, I am.
Yeah, I think I am as well. I think I often do that thing where it's like, oh well, it could be worse, and I've tried to stop doing that because, you know, you'll do that forever because there's always going to be someone that has it worse off than you. So sometimes I'll be like, I won't allow myself to be in a bad mood, or I won't allow myself to feel sad, because it's like, well, no, like what have you got to feel sad about, kind of thing. Like I kind of block my feelings sometimes. So it's like, well, you know, you're doing well when you're alive and you're healthy.
You're allowed to say you're successful. You are successful.
I'm successful.
I'm successful. Exactly.
I'm successful. You know, I've got great friends. I've got great family. I'm healthy. So sometimes I feel like I've got no reason to not be happy. But yeah, I am happy. Like I think this is the happiest I've been.
That's sick.
Are you happy?
Yes. Well, actually, no. I'm not, like, because I was just about to say what you said, yeah? You know, when you were saying that, like, when you're not happy, you're fully aware of, like, how that feels, innit? So for me, I'm exactly the same. Like, I'm fully aware of what it's like to really not be happy. And I've talked about it on my podcast a lot of times, yeah? In this period now, like, career-wise and a lot of stuff that is, like, family-wise and everything like that, like, I'm very happy. But the only thing that takes away a little bit of the happiness here is the worry about some people that are close to me because of certain things that are happening with them. Do you get what I'm saying? So that is a constant thought that goes through my head sometimes. And obviously I always look at I'm always trying to look at the positive stuff and, you know, always trying to, you know, give some uplifting words whenever. But there are times when I feel like, you know, it's a bit sad that this thing is happening to this person that's close to me or whatever. And then sometimes that does make me feel like, you know what, not that I'm unhappy, but it's like it just takes away from the moment of like some of the really good things that are happening. And then I just kind of like snap out of that. And I'm like, hold on 1 second. You know what, like in all honesty, like things are actually kind of lit and it's all right. And like things will work itself out. And what do they say? They say, everything will be all right in the end, and if it isn't, then it's not the end. Yeah. Apparently. So yeah, Tolly, Audrey,
thanks for having us.
Listen, I really enjoyed.
I thought that was cathartic. I loved it.
Yeah, I feel like, whew.
Like you're very interesting and impactful women as well. You know what I mean? You've
got
a voice,
thanks, Chuckie.
And I like the way that you use it and stuff like that. And like, yeah, I'm going through a stage right now where I'm trying to and I have been consciously for the last couple of years trying to unlearn certain things, and also keeping certain people around me who I believe has a very good perspective that will be selfishly good for me. One of the reasons why I reach out to you sometimes, we just chat and whatnot, because sometimes I just feel like that is good for me. So honourable shout out to your brethrens that have you in their lives in that. But and thanks JD for letting us have that conversation as well. Bless up.